This is Highlander, the Betta, and this is his home. In this video, I'll show you how I made it. So we start the build today by adding the bogwood that I'm going to put into here. Now this has been soaking for about 8 weeks in water, so it shouldn't be waterlogged. It does sink now. So I'm putting it there because if you can see there's a hole, and what I want to do is put some soil in there and some Monte Carlo. So over time I'm hoping that the Monte Carlo will grow and cascade down the wood and give it a really great effect. So once the wood's in place, then I'm going to start placing in some aqua soil. That's the aqua soil that I had left, and the aqua soil I'm using in this build will be the Tropica soil powder. I do want quite a thickness of soil powder, but I also don't want it at the front of the tank. So flick around, should be enough really once it's distributed. Don't particularly want it at the front, so don't want to be seeing the soil really. We've got a nice thickness of soil there we can plant into. It's probably maybe slightly a little bit too much, but can you ever have too much? It's probably about 1.5 inches thick, that. But it's going to be quite heavily planted this today, so gives the roots something to grow into. Place some just round the back. There. Like I say, I'm going to place a cup into the wood there. Just give the Monte Carlo something to root into. So once the soil's in, I'm going to start capping the soil with a nice fine gravel. Do the front first, so none of that soil seeps forward. And cap that with about 1 inch. You can cap that with 1 inch of gravel, then no soil will come seeping through. Sometimes I do use like a bag. Do apologise if you could hear that then. The air pump from the filter that I'm going to place into this started vibrating. The filter I'm putting into this was the filter that was in this before when it was a shrimp tank. So it's been running in cycled water, so the filter is cycled, so there's no problem with putting the fish in straight away. Put some gravel into there, just so it caps that soil in there as well. So once the soil's in, I do like the scraper tools that you can buy. Just gives you a bit more control. Yes, you can use your hands. But yeah, I do like these. You can get into some nooks and crannies that you can't get into with your fingers. Just nicely smooth that off. Excellent. So when you do an escape, if you make it pile back rather than flat, if it slopes, it just gives a little bit more depth into the scape. I think we're looking quite good there, and I think we're ready to plant. So one thing you do have to remember on a Betta tank, especially this one, this is going to be a sponge filter that goes in here. So just make sure you've got enough room at the back for your sponge filter to fit once you've done everything. Because I don't want to put the filter in yet, because the filter is running in a bucket at the moment. So just make sure that there is enough room for the filter to go in at the end, and the heater is going to tuck in around the back here, so you won't see the heater, and the light unit is going to change at the end as well. So first of all, I'm going to put in the stem plants that go towards the back. Now the first plant I'm going to put in today will be the Ludwigia repens. Now these are Tropica. This isn't a sponsored post by any shout, but I do like Tropica gear to get that planted in real deep. Now you can break these down and put them individually, but I'm not going to. I'm going to place them in the clumps. Nice little bit of red. I'm going to be placing in a fluval nano plant light in a little bit as well, so hopefully that'll bring the reds out even more. And what I'm going to do with this one, I know it's a plant that goes towards the back, but I'm going to place it at the front there in the corner. Because the tank's going to be, the display is going to kind of be around like that, you see. So placing this here so it grows up, I don't think will look amiss, to be perfectly honest. I think it's going to look great. Next we're going to go for the S repens. Now the S repens is more of a medium, so middle of the tank kind of place to plant. I'll get that planted in there nice and deep, so them roots are going into the soil. Now I am going heavily planted straight away on there. You don't have to, you can, with stem plants you can trim and replant, but I want this to look heavily planted straight away. Now this that I'm placing in now, I've just got from my local fish store. I'm quite sure what it is actually, but looks nice and healthy, so I've got a few of these as well. obviously you can always play about with your plants. All my tanks are heavily planted, and I'm always kind of changing things about. I guess it's part of the hobby. Become an aquatic gardener. Once you've got some plants in, it is always good practice just to give those a bit of a mist. You don't want them drying out. Plants aren't cheap, so it's always good to give them a bit of a misting over, just so they don't dry out and die. So the next plant I'm going to put in there now will be the Anubias. Now, if you're a regular onto my channel, you'll know that I love Anubias. I have Anubias in all my tanks. It's an epiphyte, which means that you don't plant it. It's the best thing to do with Anubias really is either tie it to a piece of wood or glue it to a stone. I've glued these pieces to a stone. You don't plant. If you plant the rhizome, it'll just rot and go off, and that's not what you want, is it? So it's a slow growing plant. So my idea here is to have it growing around the bottom of the wood, hopefully not overshadowing anything else, and a couple of pieces on the wood. Now, a couple of these pieces I've bought from the shop, and some are cuttings that I've taken from Anubias in my other tanks. But the beauty of sticking it to a stone is that you can move it about. If you're not happy with it, you can move it around. Once it's tied on, you're kind of stuck with it tied on, unless you want to untie it. One thing you just have to watch for though is don't glue yourself to the stone, which I nearly did. So now I think we're looking good though. Give them another spray. Don't want anything drying out. Next, it's going to plant some crypts into the front. Now you can get something they call crypt melt when you move crypts from tank to tank, or when you buy them and they have to transition over from being grown out of water to being placed in water. Hopefully we don't get any crypt melt, but if you do, don't worry, it does grow back. So just something that happens with this plant. A few plants do melt away, and then they grow back once they've transitioned over. Some plants don't really like being moved. There's quite a root on that did come out of this tank originally. This tank was a shrimp tank, and I've not had any success with shrimp whatsoever, so I decided to change it to a Betta tank. B-E-T-T-A, not T-E-L. Next I'm going to place a little bit of Monte Carlo into the hole on the wood. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really have much luck with Monte Carlo, so I have it growing in my CO2 tank. So I've just taken a little bit out of there. It's going to be really close to the light, so I'm kind of hoping it thrives in here, but only time will tell. I'm not buying a packet or a pot of it because I'm not sure whether it will survive, but we will see. Now we'll get some water into it. But before I put water in, I've just found a culture pot that I've picked up as well, a Ves Repens, so I will just potter this about. This is broken down into 4 nice clumps. I don't know where I'm gonna put them, but let's see. Now we'll start putting some water in. Next, we can now place the heater back in, and also the filter, which I'm going to do off camera. So the filter's in now and the heater's in. I'm going to leave that now for a couple of days. I have already got a Betta to go in here. He is at the store. I will pick him up in a couple of days and we will get him in. But before we do, I'm going to change the light over. So this was just a standard light that came with the tank, and now I'm going to swap it over to a fluval nano plant light. So the filter's in, the heater's in, I've swapped over the light now to the fluval nano plant light, and I have put the commissioned glass lid back onto the tank. So I'm just going to let that run now for 24 hours, let it clear, and the next time you'll see this tank will be when I'm putting my Betta in, who I must admit is absolutely stunning.